All right, folks. So today I want to talk about a comment that was left for me. And the comment is, what are the differences between detachment and distancing? Detachment and distancing. Another way to ask that question is, what is the difference between non-attachment and detachment, right? People struggle with this idea of non-attachment, or what they say in a lot of Eastern philosophies, the idea of the fact that our suffering comes from that attachment to stuff, right? And the reason people are confused by this a lot is because intellectually it's idiotic. There you go, that's a quick answer. Because what happens is that people are confused by it because what we do is we do that grade 2 level of thinking where it's kind of like one way or the other, and nothing's ever that way. There's one thing where you can say it's two things, like this pen. You can say this is one thing, or you can say it's like two things, but the idea is like this. You have two sides. And what we do is we use very simple thinking of thinking it's either this end or that end. So this is love, right? Or this is attachment. And here is being completely detached, and here is being too attached. Love, these people say that love and hate is kind of like the same thing on a different spectrum. That's what I'm trying to get at. So everything is either like, you can either see it as two separate things with like a whole spectrum in between, or you can just see it as one whole thing. It's wordplay here. We get really cute with words, but words don't really mean anything. So they're all metaphors by how you want to explain things. The idea is that there's two opposing thoughts or two extremes of something, right? So if this is like love and this is hate, it's all one thing. Well, this is extreme love and that's extreme hate, right? Now, what we do is we have Western philosophy, Western ideas where it's all about attachment and goals, and everything's about attaining. And then the Eastern philosophies are all about detachment and letting go, man. But both philosophies are completely unrealistic. Because it's like, this is reality, and they're talking about either being here or being here. This is all of reality, but you're supposed to either be here or here. That makes no sense because they're both two extremes, right? So as always with almost anything in existence, there's this and there's that. And the only hope you have of any sort of life is to find some sort of balance in between this and that. And this and that could be just one thing, but just like somewhere over here, instead of being extremely here or here, like completely attached, completely detached. And when you hear, you go to read an article about something like Zen, right? Because I open up this article on, it's called Zen Thinking. And it says, understanding the difference between non-attachment and detachment. And it starts off with a nice little quote. These are the kind of quotes that messes with people's heads, and they're like, what do I think? Because these quotes are nonsensical. They sound pretty. The thing about these quotes is that they sound really pretty. If I tell you I've detached from all things, because it leads to suffering, so I have no attachment. It sounds, wow, Tony, you're such a guru. It sounds really mystical, like I'm really wise, but it's nonsensical. It's not reasonable to be completely detached from everything. Why even here? Why even exist? And listen to this quote. It sounds very spiritual and very amazing. Non-attachment is freedom from things. It is a self-realization of the truth of reality that you, consciousness, cannot be affected by anything. It is only the egoic mind that makes you believe otherwise. So this nice little quote is saying that, like, it is a self-realization of the truth of reality that you, consciousness, cannot be affected by anything. So there you go. You're just something that exists that can't be affected. Then why do you even exist? End your existence. Imagine if I met you and you're like, hey, what's your name? Oh, my name is Brian. Tell me about yourself, Brian. I'm just a consciousness not affected by anything. So let me just take a shit on your head. Sit there while I take a shit on your head because you're just consciousness not affected by anything. So that's a life we can have. We could all just be shitting on each other's heads because you're so woke that you're just pure consciousness not affected by anything. So these thoughts, these quotes, they sound really magical, majestic, but they're nonsense. This idea of being just like, oh, I'm just in a consciousness, not attached to anything, and my consciousness is not affected by anything. Okay, so let me just take a big shit on your head. How's that for deep metaphysical thought? These are just like quotes that sound really mystical, but they're nonsensical. These extreme quotes of I'm just an awareness not affected by anything are just as nonsensical as the Western philosophy of just like this constantly chasing this carrot on a stick, this goal-oriented emptiness of life where all you're ever doing is chasing carrots on a stick. I need to move up the corporate ladder. I need to get the next promotion. I need to get the next goal. And then it's like this. So they're both, your only hope to have of any reasonable existence is to find some sort of reasonable balance in between two things. That's your job as consciousness. It's not to not be affected by nothing. It's to be affected by everything, and you find a reasonable balance in between all of that. That's your job. Because if all your job was to be a consciousness not affected by anything, you might as well just cease to exist. What the hell is the point? And that's our only hope. And that's why people get confused a lot with these quotes, because they sound sexy and mystical and like, wow, maybe I'm just not woke enough because this quote is just so mesmerizing. No, they're all nonsense. All these quotes are nonsense because they show they're like preaching to the extremes of reality. Complete attachment, and they're both nonsensical. Right? They're both absolutely nonsensical. So how do you find balance in between that? Well, that's your job as a consciousness. It's not for me to tell you where the balance is in between those two things, right? Because each individual consciousness gets to decide that for yourself. And if your individual consciousness thinks what makes sense is that extreme detachment or attachment, then go for it. Be extremely attached to everything or be extremely detached if you think that's like a reasonable balance in between all of existence. Right? It's not for anyone to tell you. But these quotes sound incredibly confusing because it just makes it sound like, wow, it's so easy. I'm just a consciousness, man. I'm not affected by anything. Good for you. Well, if that's really, hi, yeah, I meet you and you're Brian. Yeah, I'm Brian. I'm just a consciousness not affected by anything. Okay. See ya. Because I was going to have a cool conversation with you, but you're not really affected by anything. You're not even affected by an awesome conversation, so what's the point? You're just too woke to even have a conversation. That's how much of a consciousness you are, not affected by anything. It is a self-realization of the truth of reality that you, consciousness, cannot be affected by anything. Good job. You've reached the pinnacle of wokeness and spirituality, and you're enlightened, and now just disappear from existence. What else is there? So yeah, the hope is to find something for you that's reasonable in the middle, because a reasonable balance for me personally would be something like this. It's like, Your life doesn't have to be all about goals and achieving and then seeing the end result. It can just simply be you do the things you like and don't think about the outcomes of them, right? It's kind of like you like to play basketball. Go in the park and play basketball. But you don't have to be like, oh, but if I don't make it to the NBA, then I'm a failure and I suck. No, just play basketball for the sake of playing basketball, right? You just do the things you like to do and don't think about the outcomes, right? Because for me, that's a reasonable thing where you can still have goals. My goal is because I want to play basketball and just keep getting better because I love basketball. That's a pretty cool goal. But then if you add a second layer of that, but then I want to get so good that I make it to the national team. And if I don't, then I suck. Then you're really creating that torture for yourself. Because really it's about having fun to play basketball. It's not about being on a national team. That's just that is the egoic. He says it is only the egoic mind that makes you believe. Yeah. See, that's when you do get trapped in your ego where it's like, hey man, I thought you just loved playing basketball, but now it's not about basketball anymore. It's about looking awesome because you're on a national team, right? Because now you don't get it, man. I'm on a national team. So don't get into that trap. So just do things for the simple pleasure of doing things without any expected result, play basketball. And if you want to get better, keep getting better, but don't have some final goal that if you don't reach that, then you're a failure. And now it's not fun anymore, right? That's a healthy balance in between the two extremes of detachment and attachment. And that is the only reasonable thing that I see as far as all these philosophies. There's so many different philosophies, but there's the extreme west and the extreme east. And then to me, it's about you as an awareness finding a reasonable middle ground in between all of that. Because we exist in societies. We have friends. We have families. This idea of extreme detachment or it's nonsensical. If I have a kid and the kid just dies tomorrow, I'm not going to be like, nah, I'm not attached to anything. There's things that mean something to you, right? Now, having things that mean something to you and forming some sort of bond to those things does not mean that man, look at me. I'm not doing this right because I formed a bond to these things. That's what you do as a human being. Yes, we form bonds to things we feel connected to. Or you can just not feel anything at all. Like I said, you can just be a consciousness that's not affected by anything. Oh, my new favorite show is coming back on Netflix, but I don't really care. I'm not really affected by it one way or the other. Cool, don't watch it. It's fun to be excited about something. I remember when I was younger and I was really obsessed with all the bands I used to love watching, all these rock and roll bands. I'd buy tickets and in 3 months, I'd be so excited for 3 months ahead. Oh my God, in 3 months, I'm going to get to see my favorite band. It was amazing. It's cool to look forward to something, to be excited about something. This idea of I'm just a consciousness. I'm not really affected by anything. So why even buy tickets for this show in 3 months? Because I'm just going to be at the show, but it's not really going to affect me because I'm just a consciousness not really affected by anything. Right? Now, if none of that makes sense to you and you feel like, Tony, you have this all wrong, you don't truly understand Zen thinking, then I don't understand Zen thinking, right? I'm not the ultimate truth teller of anything in existence. It's just for me, I've found that extreme detachment and extreme attachment, they're both nonsensical to me. And the only thing that makes sense to me is to find some sort of reasonable balance in between that with everything. And ultimately, it's always what makes sense to you. I mean, if your idea of heaven is literally detaching yourself from everything, not being affected by anything anymore, and just being in this state of blissful nirvana, just floating around, completely detached from everything, then that's not inherently bad or good. If that's what you connect with, then go for it. But for me, when I read all these philosophies, I understand why they confuse a lot of people, because to me they're nonsense. They're like sort of like, it's not a full picture. It's not a full picture. It's like like I said, this is the full picture, and instead of focusing on this full picture, you're either going here or going here. But these are very two extreme sides, and then there's so much here you're missing. So much here you're missing. It's no different. It's no different than like somebody's like, don't drink soda. Soda's bad for you. We all know soda's bad for you. No one's promoting the fact that drink Coca-Cola. It's great for you. But Coca-Cola is a part of existence. Are you never gonna have a cold, refreshing Coca-Cola ever? Because you've attached some sort of thing to it that's bad or good. It's, Coca-Cola is either here or here. Now Coca-Cola is here like everything else. It's like cheesecake. It's like Coca-Cola. It's like fast cars. It's like pretty things, flowers. It's all here. All of it is a part of existence. I've detached from Coca-Cola. I've detached from relationships. I've detached from everything. Okay. I'm attached to everything. I need a fast car. I need a mansion. I need to be the most successful person at my job. Okay. Me, I like all of the stuff in the middle. Coca-Cola, cheesecake, having fun with friends, being lazy one day, the next day being super productive, the next day taking a hike, the next day laying in bed all day. Just kind of balance out all of it. Have a bottle of Coca-Cola, but don't have 5 bottles of Coca-Cola, When I say a bottle, not a 2-liter bottle, just like a tiny, like a small little bottle. Have a can of Coca-Cola, but you don't need to have 15 cans. So that's what I think is the purpose of consciousness, to find a balance in between all of it. Because that way you don't limit yourself to one particular thing. I'm completely detached. I'm completely attached. I have no Coca-Cola. I have 15 bottles of no Coca-Cola. Find a reasonable balance. That way, you can sort of, the way I see it is that, think of every reality like a video game, and the reality we live in, this earth reality, some people call it third dimensional reality. Again, just names, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's the idea of mastering this reality so none of it has complete power over you. Money's great. Don't let money control you. Whatever it is, Coca-Cola's great. Don't let Coca-Cola control you. So the idea is you have this infinite buffet of things. So this reality right here, this is the infinite buffet. So why just eat from here or here when there's millions of different trays of things you can experience? So walk by the cheesecake tray, have a piece of cheesecake, but don't just eat cheesecake all day. So that buffet is infinite. Dabble in all of it because it all exists. It's all there for you to try. It's not about living here and here. It's about mastering how to dip your toes in any part of that without it having control over you. That's what I think ultimate mastery is. It's not living here or living here. It's about being able to dabble your foot in any part of this, but not losing yourself in it, and still being able to maintain that balance between it all. Because it's easy to get lost in any aspect of it. It's easy to get lost in extreme attachment. It's easy to get lost in extreme detachment. But the real mastery is being able to dabble in any part of it without being lost in it and having that thing have control over you. Yeah, so that's my thought on attachment and detachment. And I wanted to make a video on that because I got a comment on it, and that's basically it. So have a beautiful day, everyone. Bye.